Hello, everybody. My name is Fred Davis. I'm the author of Beyond Recovery and the editor of Awakening Clarity, the non-dual oriented website. I'm here today to talk to you on another non-dual topic, and I thought that we would chat today on the confusion that we experience in early awakening. Well, I say early awakening, but really I should just say post-awakening, because in my experience, I was very confused for 3.5 years. Now, that's a long time to be in acute oscillation. When I say oscillation, I mean moving back and forth, back and forth. But that wasn't actually my earliest confusion. My first confusion was that before this awakening had even clouded up for me, which it did, that brightness doesn't usually last forever. And it usually levels out and then begins to diminish. And that was my experience. So before the brightness was even down, I mean, I was already telling everybody, oh my God, I woke up, I woke up, I woke up, I'm enlightened, I finally got it. And it is very exciting because I had spent 25 years trying to wake up and had damn near come to the conclusion that I never was going to wake up and was beginning to wonder if anybody else had ever woken up when, bam, out of the blue, there it was. So I didn't know. I didn't really was operating from ignorance. I was not a part of the broader non-dual community. I never had a teacher. I read a lot of books, but I wasn't even really involved online much. There wasn't nearly as much available online in the early 2000s, and nowhere near as much. So what I had done was go out and seek a bunch of stuff, Eckhart Tolle's material and stuff like that, and brought it in. So I was in sort of a little bit of a microcosm of one, and so I didn't know anything about this. And as far as I knew, I mean, it was a direct path from Buddha to Eckhart Tolle to me. I really and truly, I mean, I had no idea that there was a large community of people who was awake and who were more awake than I was, and clearer than I was. I didn't know anything about all that stuff. And because I never took a teacher because Eckhart was unavailable to me, and so that was my teacher, and so I didn't know what else to do, and so a lot of stuff happened that doesn't need to happen to you. The first thing that happened to me was that enlightened ego, which is, oh my God, I'm enlightened, and I need to tell you about this because you need to know about it, and I'm going to save the world. And whew, that lasted for quite a while. I ran off pretty much every friend I had, and some of them hung around, but we just never were quite as friendly after that. Or most of them, that wasn't the case. A couple of them woke up. Now we real close. But at any rate, I went through that enlightened ego stage and to the understanding that, oh, you know, who is it that woke up? Because there's the sense that enlightened ego thinks this unit woke up. And when it thinks that, it means that what it's really yelling at everybody is, I'm no longer enlightened. I'm not enlightened. I'm not enlightened. Every time it's saying, I am enlightened, there should be a not in between those two words, between am and enlightened, every single time. That will also be the case for you if you feel like you are enlightened, because nobody is enlightened. Nobody. It just doesn't work like that. And if you are in post-awakening and you've got a little brightness about you, you'll understand that very clearly. If you're not yet awakened, I know that's very sore news, but don't worry, you can still awake. You can still wake up. It's all a matter of how we're using this language. But what really happens in us in an awakening experience is that that which is awake, which is not this body, but which encompasses this body. I mean, it's not exclusively this body. It's this body because it's everything. But it is that consciousness. It is the animating presence to everything, not some consciousness that this unit possesses. That's what wakes up. And when it wakes up, the first thing it notices that it's not this guy. That's the very first thing it notices. So there's this very clear seeing that, oh, I'm this. I'm not this little guy. I'm this. And as soon as that's seen, then the next thing that happens is that this little thing comes right back and says, I'm awake. See, and it may think it did it too. It's always willing to take the credit and shed the blame. That's one of the things I've noticed about this unit over the years. So the best way to is that enlightened ego thing can be very dangerous and very difficult to get somebody out of. You may have to do it yourself. Um, you may have to give yourself some help before even a teacher can help you, because you may not be willing for a teacher to help you because you may think you already have it. So if you think you already got all this thing and you don't need a teacher and da da da, but yet you're not living in a very enlightened manner, odds are that you are an enlightened ego, my friend, and that you are just a pain in the ass to the rest of us. So the earlier you get this thing, the better. And because you can't move on from where you are as long as you think you're at the end of the line. So what I would recommend is that you take all of that into inquiry. I am enlightened. Is that true? When you had an awakening experience, what was the very first thing that you noticed? Oh, I'm not that person. So if you're not that person, how is it that that person is what is enlightened? If there's actually nobody home, there's not an individual entity in this body, then how is it that it is enlightened? So there's some points of inquiry that I would highly recommend that you look into, because that you dig your heels in that place, my friend, you're lost until the next life. So it's a dangerous spot, and I wish you the best in getting out of it if you're out of it. I got very, very lucky. I've not been a very honest person in my life, and fortunately, I got honest enough there to say, you know what, I really don't have this thing. So, but here's what happened, is that all I saw was that I don't have it. I don't see that I don't have it is equally as false as saying I do have it. See, what that is once again, I love to use this thing because it tells us so much. I don't have it is over here. It's one half of the 360. It's a 180 position. So, and then and then it moves over here to I do have it. All right. In my case, it was, oh boy, I'm enlightened. So, first off, you start off with, I'm not enlightened. I'm not enlightened. And then enlightenment, awakening happens, and boom, now move over here to I am enlightened. I am enlightened. See, they've got opposites. So I'm still staying within a circle. Then within that circle, there becomes oh God Almighty, I'm not enlightened. I move back over here. So I move from one side of the circle to the other, from one side of the circle to the other, never realizing that those are all positions that are being held within the full circle. And what I am actually is the full circle. So the denial, or that actually I don't have it, was not a point of humility in the sense of saying, oh, gee, I'm not really enlightened. It was whatever. I think it was when I was running off all my friends, and I went, God Almighty, this is really bad. I mean, maybe, I don't think I want to have been awakened. So I am going, and so I wasn't. And I would read descriptions of other people's awakening, and man, and I would go, oh, well, I'm not that clear. I mean, that's not me. So I didn't awaken after all. That became my new position, was my denial of awakening. And I have since found out that this is not particularly uncommon, that a lot of us do it. So I went from I am awakened, to enlightened ego, to denial of the awakening. And I stayed in that as long as I could stand it. And then I just couldn't stand it anymore. And then I didn't give a damn if I lost every friend I had or not. I had to live what I was. Because what happened is there was the re-enlightenment. In other words, I got clear again. And once I got clear, then I never got that unclear again. So from enlightened ego to denial, and we reach you know, back to oscillation, from denial to oscillation, which means I got it, oh, thank God, I got it again, and now, oh, I lost it. Now, I'm not in denial. I'm not saying I never had it. I'm saying I had it and now I don't have it. That's only slightly more true than denial, but it is it is a little tiny bit of progress anyway. So, but anyway, so I moved from denial into oscillation. I got it, I lost it, on and off. I'm clear, I'm cloudy, but I didn't see it as being clear or cloudy. I thought as I got it, I lost it, I got it, I lost it. I see this thing, I don't see this thing, and it is miserable. So what happened to me within that oscillation was that when I would go when I would fall out of it, oh my God, at one point it was so bad that I went into re-seeking. So we have a seeking until we have awakening, and then within the awake environment, there can be re-seeking if we get cloudy enough, because there can be the sense of, oh, I lost it, and so I got to read that book again. I mean, I sat in my living room and read the same book I was reading when I woke up, probably 4 or 5 times, reading all the good parts in the hope that I could somehow recreate the environment in which awakening happened again, so that to begin with, so I could make it happen again. Because I'm a great addict, and I really wanted that jolt. I want that awakeness here, and I want it now. I want more. Never realizing that I already had it all. If you already have it all, you can't get more. But that's a little bit more awakened point of view than I was experiencing at the time. So the re-seeking, I had to hit my head against the wall again and saying, and just recognize that it wasn't working. So isolation was frustrating, re-seeking wasn't working, denial had been painful, enlightened ego was painful. I didn't know what to do, so I finally took a good look at this thing and said, you know what, I may not be able to get myself out of this mess. And so I went out and hired a teacher. I got online and I already had corresponded with Scott Killaby, and I wrote him and said, hey, I need some help. And so I talked to Scott a couple of times. And the first time I had it, I mean, I've talked to him quite a few times now, but we became friends. But that first time that we talked, about 40 minutes in, boom, I woke up very clearly and never have moved from it again. Stayed. He just moved me from oscillation. I mean, just, it's not like he did it, but it happened while I was talking to someone who was already clear. In the presence of clarity, a lot of stuff can happen that it cannot happen when you're in your own presence, which is cloudy. It just makes sense. I can't lead myself to some place that I've never been. That's the truth. So those are some of the stages, and those are some of if you just even knowing they exist is extremely helpful, because what actually led me to Scott was reading Adyashanti's The End of Your World, and I went, son of a bitch, look at the stages in this thing. This is exactly what's happened to me. And then and seeing it really made me glad at heart, but it didn't wake me up. So going to Scott is what ultimately did it for me. But knowing these stages exist, particularly that enlightened ego, my friend, that's really the one that you've got to get honest with yourself. Oh my God. So awakening is actually the beginning of a new spiritual journey. It is the end of seeking as we knew it. It is the end of a lot of things, but it is not the end of the line. So it is the beginning of a new and what I would say is the real authentic spiritual path. So we want to get you to a full recognition of your true nature as soon as we can. I hope that you will join me here on YouTube and on the websites. Maybe you'll pick up the book. The book, by the way, has the same inquiries in it that I lead people through in my direct pointing sessions. And my direct pointing sessions have been helpful in helping people on 4 continents come to the recognition of their true nature. It is doable. It is not that difficult if we can be open and honest and humble. So I wish you the very best in all 3 of those departments that I was never very good at. Um, see you soon. Thank you.